Hello, and thanks for joining me in this new video. So, first I wanted to show you this new pipe that I got. It was Christmas sale at my local brick and mortar shop. I got it half price, which I think was quite decent, and looks elegant. I enjoy it. It's a good smoking pipe. I hope you too had some good bargains around the Christmas period that you could enjoy. But the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about mostly was another excerpt from Out of the Silent Planet that really struck a chord with me. So it talks about pleasure and the memory that is associated with it. So let me read you the excerpt in question. So Ransom is talking with a local native, a Ross, as they call it. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. I'm not sure how it's supposed to be. And so they're having a conversation about pleasure, and specifically here about having children, and then it gets into a broader vision of pleasure. And so the Rosa, which is a plural for Ross, only have children, usually just one, and during 1 or 2 years of their life they are allowed or they desire to have children, and then they don't really do that anymore. And for Ransom, as an earthling, that seems strange, and he says so to the Ross. He said, is the begetting of young not a pleasure among the Rosa? A very great one, man, that's the word for human. That is what we call love. But if a thing is a pleasure, a man wants it again. He might want the pleasure more often than the number of young that could be fed. It took Hyoy, that's the name of the Ross, a long time to get to the point. You mean, he said slowly, that he might do it not only in 1 or 2 years of his life, but again? Yes. But why? Would he want his dinner all day, or want to sleep after he had slept? I do not understand. But a dinner comes every day. This love, you say, comes only once while the Ross lives? And so he replies, but it takes his whole life. When he's young, he has to look for his mate. And then he has to court her. Then he begets young. Then he rears them. Then he remembers all this and boils it inside him and makes it into poems and wisdom. Beautiful sentence. But the pleasure he must be content only to remember, replied Ransom. That is like saying, said Roy, my food I must be content only to eat. I do not understand, replied Ransom. And so, here is the most important part. A pleasure is full grown only when it is remembered. You are speaking, Hman, as if the pleasure were one thing and the memory another. It is all one thing. The Seroni, it's another race, could say it better than I say it now. Not better than I could say it in a poem. But what you call remembering is the last part of the pleasure. As the cra is the last part of a poem. That's just a specific term for the way they write poetry in that world. When you and I met, he continues, the meeting was over very shortly. It was nothing. Now it is growing something as we remember it. It is growing, as we remember it. So beautiful. But still, we know very little about it. What it will be when I remember it as I lie down to die. What it makes in me all my days till then, that is the real meeting. The other is only the beginning of it. You say you have poets in your world. Do they not teach you this? Perhaps some of them do, said Ransom. But even in a poem, does a Ross never long to hear one splendid line over again? Then they go into semantics a little bit, it's not as interesting. And indeed, he continued, the poem is a good example, for the most splendid line becomes fully splendid only by means of all the lines after it. If you went back to it, you would find it less splendid than you thought. You would kill it, I mean, in a good poem. I just love that whole segment here, that the memory of a thing is not only directly part of the thing, it is its fulfillment. I love that. It's not just something that comes and goes, it's one thing. And the memory is as good as the thing itself, better even, because it has grown over time and it filled you, and maybe you add to it with your own imagination and interpretation, and it's like a living organism that grows inside you and just comes out in your memory as the fully grown tree or plant. I think it's very, very beautiful. There was one other part that I wanted to read that's pertaining to this particular concept. And how so? That is the Ross speaking. And how could we endure to live and let time pass if we were always crying for one day or 1 year to come back? If we did not know that every day in a life fills the whole life with expectation and memory, and that these are that day. It's great. How could you live your whole life if you spent it just wishing you were back in time, just wishing for that perfect year that you lived a few years ago, that perfect day? How could you live? It's great. But that your whole life fills your memories and your pleasures with expectations, with memories, and that they are that day. Your memory of your favorite day in your life is that day. It's fulfillment. That's great, gorgeous. I love this book by C.S. Lewis, Out of the Silent Planet. It's not very long, but I've already read to you 2 chapters that I thought were gorgeous. And this one here, I think will stay with me forever. And when I remember it in 50 years, it will be even better. Anyway, thank you for listening to me and see you in the next one. Bye.